All right, welcome everybody. This is Rachel Cassidy with the Utah Division of Drinking Water. This is our monthly operator webinar, and we've got a great guest speaker for us today. But before we get to Sean, I just have a couple of things I'm going to share with you, things that are going on in the division. There we go. Okay, so just a few reminders. We've got some upcoming training. The Rural Water Association is doing training in Vernal this week on the 25th and in Logan on June 22nd. And then RCAC is doing training in Brigham City on June 13th. And you can go to their websites and check their training calendars for more details on those, but those are coming here pretty soon. Another reminder is our seasonal startup is happening right now. If you have a water system that is just seasonal, meaning it's not operated all year round, then in order to turn the system on, you have to go through the seasonal startup procedures, and that information you can email us or call us if you have questions on how to get your seasonal startup completed. And then all public water systems need to submit a 2017 total coliform sampling site plan. It's due by September 30th. If you haven't done it yet, just get in touch with us and we will help you out. When I say get in touch with us, you can always email ddwreports@utah.gov, or if you know any of us specifically, you can give us a call or send us an email. The deadline for your consumer confidence report is coming up. It's July 1st. The consumer confidence report that's due July 1st covers data through the end of 2016. And then heads up that the window for lead copper sampling is fast approaching. It's between June 1st and September 30th. And then I'm just going to spend a quick minute on lead copper sampling. The reason for the June 1st through September 30th is because those are the warmest months of the year. And that's for water systems that are on annual or once every 3-year sampling. If your water system is on once every 6 months sampling, then it can be done outside of this window. But for water systems that are once a year or once every 3 years, which is the bulk of our public water systems, you need to make sure that your sampling is done during this time frame. And please remember that the samples, the compliance is run by the date the samples are taken. So keep that in mind. A little bit on sampling procedures. This is the most common problem that we run into. Just make sure that it's in the customer's home from the kitchen, bathroom, cold water tap, and the water needs to have been sitting stagnant for at least 6 hours. We don't recommend letting the tap sitting stagnant for greater than 12 hours, so keep that in mind. And then make sure that they are these first draw samples. We have some updates on our website. If you go to drinkingwater.utah.gov, and then on the left-hand side, click on compliance and monitoring, and then lead and copper rule. Maybe I'll show this to you really quick. Then you can, here's that. Click on compliance monitoring, lead copper. And this is updated, it's newly updated. It's got EPA's sampling guidance information that recently came out and all of our updates on lead and copper. So that's information that would be helpful probably if you're getting ready to do that sampling. And then this slide is just a heads up on where not to sample from. If you have a point of use device, water softener, don't sample from those taps. Outside spigots, vacant homes, any type of location that hasn't been used for a while, definitely avoid those. And then any sites that have undergone any changes in plumbing improvements, changes in faucets, I would take those off of your sampling list. And then how to get the data to the division. You can always send it to ddwreports@utah.gov. Please calculate the 90th percentile if you can. If not, that's fine. Sometimes the labs do it for us and that's great. Or you can just send us all the data and then have your lab send the results, or you can send them to us. So that's kind of the division update that I wanted to get to you. And we are really excited to have Sean McHenry. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
From State IT with us. He is going to give us a presentation on cybersecurity. So we're going to let Sean take over.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Colt, for inviting me. Colt and I have had a few discussions over the last couple of months of some of the changes that are happening within the drinking water industry, some of the things that are coming down from the federal government, and some of the requirements and requests to talk about cybersecurity and why it's important, what we do, how do we address it with the big mountain of things that need to be done, where do we start? And so this is really intended to be a quick overview, give you a direction. And so a couple of things about me. My name is Sean McHenry. I work for Department of Technology Services, and I'm in information security here with the state. I work very closely with the Department of Environmental Quality. I have 16 plus years in the IT industry. I've got 3 years here with the state, just about. I am certified. The CISA is a certified information security assessor or auditor. So I deal very heavily in this world. I do have an MCSE, which is a Microsoft certification in system engineering. So I've got a lot of technical background as well. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today, we're going to cover some basics just to make sure that we're all on the same page and we got the same terminology. We're going to talk about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These 3 areas are the key areas in cybersecurity. And we cybersecurity professionals, we put a lot of equal weight to those 3. It's very common when you listen to the news or watch the news, read the newspaper, go online, read news articles about all of the breaches and the stealing of identities. It's very heavy in the news on the confidentiality side, but integrity and availability, we look at that with equal weight, and we want to make sure that when we protect our systems, we protect it for all 3 of those. And then we'll quickly go through a data security life cycle, so that way you understand what the steps are to implement proper controls, to be able to assess those and have continuous monitoring. And then last, we're going to go over the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, what it is, where it came from, why it's important, and why it's important today. Okay, some of the basics. Technology. When we talk about technology and we bring that word up today, most people instantly go to computers, but really it's just a practical application of knowledge. If you think of, let's say, a hose is technology because it helps us to route water flow from one place to the next, so that way we don't have to get buckets and try and walk them around. It's very helpful to be able to move that water very easily. And so technology does not have to be electronic, but we're going to focus on the electronic side today. But technology is can be good, or it can also get in the way. So this is just a little quip, how can I trust your information when you're using such outdated technology? By no means is anybody suggesting or recommending that you have to go out and get the latest and greatest. If it works and you're able to do your job and you're able to get things done properly, use it. So don't think that anybody's saying you have to go out and spend lots of money and lots of time to get the latest and greatest. But we also do want to make sure that you're using something that will be able to protect you from a cybersecurity standpoint. In cybersecurity, we talk about defense in depth. In this particular one, we've got our bag or a pot of gold, and we want to do everything we can to protect that. We've got armed security, we've got walls, we've got guard dogs, we've got the cameras, guard gates. All of that is to protect the gold. If we just had one, it's easy for the robber to get in and circumvent the one protection. So we have multiple protections to make it harder for that person to get in and steal our gold. In cybersecurity, we have the same type of thing. We want to have various levels and various technologies put in place to protect those sensitive areas and most sensitive areas. And so we use firewalls, we use routers, we segment our networks into multiple groups. So that way, we can protect them at different levels and then have higher levels of protection for those areas that are of most importance. Current state of security. So this is the FBI director. I'm just going to go ahead and read this. I know you can read it also, but it's a very important part. So I'm convinced that there are only two types of companies: those that have been hacked and those that will be. And even they are converging into one category: companies that have been hacked and those that will be hacked again. And so this is really where we are today. And unless you, over the last even 7 to 10 years, have taken all of the necessary precautions to control what information goes in and out, the chances are, you've been hacked. I mean, it's a kind of a sad state of affairs that I, as a cybersecurity professional, I have resigned to myself that all of my information is out there for people to get access to it. I do try and keep things private and confidential from here going forward. But if somebody wants to steal my identity, they've got all the information already, because it's not that I've put that out there, it's that other people have put it out there and they haven't taken the proper care to protect it. And so I'm sorry to say that chances are most of you are probably in the same boat. And so it's just managing what is going to happen from here forward. And so that's a lot of what we talk about in cybersecurity, and the controls that we want to put in place now is, let's just kind of draw a line today, forget about what happened in the past, and let's just put a focus on where we're going in the future and what can we do to protect ourselves here moving forward. These are some of the things that have happened over the last several months and within the last year that just kind of talk about. So very recently, just last week, there was the WannaCry virus. If you've heard on the radio, this is a virus that had been put out. It affected hundreds of thousands of computers in over 150 countries all around the world. It was a pretty big, widespread net that was cast. But it's interesting because a lot of the cybersecurity professionals say that these perpetrators were amateurs, that there were a lot of mistakes that were made along the way, and basically saying that if they had actually known what they were doing, the damage could have been much, much more significant. Fortunately, they didn't know what they were doing, and we only have several 100,000 devices around the world. But it does go and begs review of what we have, that if we don't keep our systems up to date in patching and Microsoft patches, or if you use Linux, getting those Linux patches, if you don't keep your systems up to date, you're vulnerable to amateurs. The next one is, this was a few weeks ago, HP sound card driver. So Hewlett-Packard had released, and it wasn't in all of their systems, but had released in some of their systems some sound drivers where the developer of the sound driver actually put in some key logging software. The intent was not nefarious, but the way it was written, it was logging every time you pressed a key, it would log what it was. And so if you were using that type of computer and going online to your banking system, you say what website you went to, here's your username, here's your password. Now, it was not sending that information out, it was storing it locally, but it just goes to point out that not all systems are developed to perfection. And so as these things come out, definitely we want to take advantage of the news and what's going on and get our systems cleaned up appropriately. The next one I want to talk about is the Louisiana chemical plant. So this happened maybe a little bit more than a year ago, but it's very much a key point in what water operators deal in. So this particular chemical plant, small town, and everybody woke up to the chemical plant, having had a massive explosion and was on fire, really caused a lot of concern through the course of the town, because this was the town's major employer. And as people woke up, a lot of phone calls were going out. What's going on? Where's the plant? Do I have a job anymore? They'd go onto the news, and there were pictures of the plant in flames. They'd, Twitter. And the bottom line of it is nothing happened. The plant was okay. There was no explosion, but some hackers out of Russia were running a campaign to cause public chaos, and they were very successful in it. It obtained regional news coverage on something that never happened. And so even though we talk about the bad guy getting into a network and getting access to data, they don't necessarily need to do that to cause problems. And so, especially when we talk about water supplies, that if somebody were to have a campaign just to cause public distrust of the water systems and never actually having done something, there's a lot of damage that can happen in that. So we want to be able to be very careful about, the news and what's going on and the things that we say and do with respect to our systems. And then the last one I want to talk about is there was a drinking water system in Illinois where a bad guy actually did get into the industrial control system of that plant and was able to get access to the application that deals with how chemicals are regulated within the water supply. And they turned on the chlorine, which flooded the water supply with all the chlorine that was in the tanks. Now, fortunately, there was somebody that was actually at the operations center, saw it happening, and was able to push the button and stop the water from flowing downstream. And but it took a lot of time to clean that out. There were a lot of people without water during that time period because of that. But this was a case that nobody was trying to take any information out, but because they were able to gain control of that system, they were able to cause some damage. Okay, when we talk about security and compliance, security and compliance, they're not really equal. And a lot of people use these terms interchangeably, but it's important to know that while security and compliance aren't equal, security is about keeping the bad guy out. And when I say bad guy out, it's not just about somebody from Malaysia or China or Russia. It could be somebody inside the organization who has internal access that for some reason has gone rogue. That's the bad guy. But compliance is about meeting statutory or regulatory requirements, okay? But they do go hand in hand, that when you are compliant and you do have security measures in place, you do have an overall maturity. So these two things do go hand in hand. Okay, so CIA, or confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and the data security lifecycle. As I said before, we look at all three of these equal. And when we protect our systems, the same controls that we put in place are the same between all three. But when it's about our data classification and how we categorize the systems, the information systems, helps us to know what controls should be put in place and at what degree. In the data security lifecycle, we start off by categorizing our system. Is this high in confidentiality, integrity, or availability? Is it moderate? Is it low? We need to look at all three, and depending on how we rank those, the overall system goes to the most strict. And once we know what those levels are, then we start selecting our security controls. And then you can see in step 3, we implement those controls. We can go in a circle various iterative processes as we assess the controls, make some changes, re-implement, and then once we think we've got a good representation of those security controls, then we can go in and actually formally authorize it. Yes, we have taken all the necessary steps to protect this information system, and then we monitor it. We do, vulnerability scanning. We make sure patches are applied as soon as possible, et cetera. And so the cycle goes round and round, and as you update your systems and as the rules and the regulations change, we want to make sure that we keep that categorization and those controls in place and up to date. Okay, NIST Cybersecurity Framework. You can see right there, there's the a website where you can go and get probably more information than you'd really care to read about the cybersecurity framework. But I want to encourage everybody to go out there. One of the things I want to make sure is very clear here, at this point, there is no requirement to use this framework. There's no requirement from the state level. There's no requirement from the federal level. That said, everybody's encouraging that you use this. Okay, if you already have something in place and it's working and your controls are in place and you've got a secure environment, absolutely continue to do that. You can use ISO, you can use COBIT. If you just focus on the NIST 853 security control series, that's fine too. Whatever's working for you, go ahead and use it. But if you don't have something, I'd recommend that you take a look at this. So why do we want to use the cybersecurity framework? In February of 2013, Barack Obama had signed an executive order that basically commissioned the framework. And you can see there, it is the policy of the United States to enhance the security and resilience of the nation's critical infrastructure. And drinking water has been determined as part of that critical infrastructure. And so when these controls were created, it was intended for those areas like drinking water, like hospitals, public safeties, et cetera. Just recently, a couple of weeks ago, President Trump signed another executive order about strengthening cybersecurity in these critical infrastructures. But in there, he actually states that effective immediately, each agency head shall use the framework to manage cybersecurity risk. And so this is a mandate that has now been put out on the federal level. I personally believe that it's going to be more prevalent in the work that we're doing, and you'll probably be hearing this a lot in the future. So why do we want to swing to the cybersecurity framework? It's going to be a part of your life, and so it would be good to at least know the terminology from that. Within the framework, there are 5 functions. In those functions, there are 22 categories, and from those categories, there are 99 subcategories. So there's a lot that can be done. This slide here, I just want to say that these are the areas that if you don't know where to go and you don't know where to start here. You work your way kind of down. And so these 17 will cover probably about 80%, 80 to 85% of the current threat landscape. And so if you go onto the NIST website, into the cybersecurity framework, you can get a lot more detail of what these subcategories are. But here would be a really good place for you to start. All right, well, that kind of ends that quick overview. If you have any questions, please route those to DEQ and to the people here. If they can't answer it right away and they don't have the answer, they will absolutely get a hold of me and we will get you the information that you need so that way you can protect your systems. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. This is cool. I was just going to say, we do have the live chat on YouTube working. If you do have a question, you can type it in there really quickly, or like Sean said, you can reach out to anyone here. We can get you in touch with someone here to answer some of those specific cybersecurity questions. We didn't know we could launch the live chat until now.
That's fascinating. I had no idea that there was this requirement. There's always a new requirement. So if you have questions that you just want to email, about cybersecurity, go ahead and just use our DDW reports at utah.gov. And then in the subject line, go ahead and put security. But thank you, Sean, so much.
Absolutely.
So just going to give you, since I still have 5 minutes, I'm going to use it. So you're still stuck with me. I'm going to talk about residuals really quick because we can't get enough of it. We did send out the notices of violation to water systems that add chlorine or purchase water with chlorine who had not sent in or we had not received the quarterly distribution residuals report. This quarterly report is required for systems that chlorinate or purchase chlorinated water. And you can check your inventory on waterlink.utah.gov. Let me show you how to do that really quick. Let me pull up Waterlink and I'll show you where you check your inventory. So you go to waterlink.utah.gov and you select your system. Here's our test system, so I won't embarrass anybody. You select your system, you can type in the name or you type in the number, and then these water system reports show up on the right-hand side. And it defaults to the inventory report. So if you just scroll down on the inventory report, the first information that we put is the contact information. Look, you guys, I'm in charge of a water system. So this is the contact and then the address information, population served. It's important that this is updated and correct. And then the last time there was a sanitary survey, the operating period of the water system, it's important that this is correct as well. Let us know if this is wrong for your water system. And then the date your IPS report was last updated. It should be updated every 24 hours. So anyway, scroll down, service connections, that's just should make sense, but treatment plants. So this water system, this fake water system, has a spring fever chlorinator that's inactive. So because it's inactive, I would say unless they're purchasing chlorinated water, the system doesn't need to do that quarterly report. So I'll just scroll down and double check their sources. It looks like they don't have a consecutive connection, which is the type of source that we look for when we look for if they're purchasing chlorinated water. But if there was a connection here that was active, like say there was a connection to Salt Lake City, this water system was purchasing chlorinated water from Salt Lake City, then this water system would be required to send in that quarterly report. So check your inventory on Waterlink. And the requirement is we need the monthly residual average, minimum 12 residuals for all public water systems that fit this requirement. If you are required to take more than 12 coliform bacteria samples, then we should be getting more than 12 residuals because each coliform bacteria sample should come with the distribution residual. So what is supposed to be submitted is that monthly average and the total number of samples along with the operational data. And when we say operational data, we mean the volume of water treated, settings on the rotometer, pump, number of tablets. We have a form online that you can download for the operational data. It's just on our front page on the website. So this report is due every calendar quarter, and there are 10 IPS demerit points each month that we don't receive the residuals. So if you're with a water system that did get a notice of violation for this, you probably noticed in the letter that it was issuing 30 points. That's 10 points for each month. And so your burning question, I'm sure, is how do you get rid of these points if you did get a notice of violation? And the response is, if you have the data, send it in. If you did not get the data, you didn't take the residuals, then just start doing them as soon as possible. And then make sure that we have them by July 10th for the second calendar quarter of 2017 that we're currently in. This is just information on the old way that we were getting reports and the new way. We do have an online form that you can use to submit the chlorine residuals, just the average residual along with the total number that you took. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we're running out of time, but you can screenshot it. If you have questions on this, our rule manager is Brad Holdaway here at the division. And so that's just kind of another blurb about residuals. And then did we have any online questions?
We don't, but remind them that the CEU link is also available in the description now.
Oh,
So they
yes.
don't have to do a screenshot and type in
I know.
the really long URL. So there is the link to CEUs located just below this video in the description.
Yes. So don't screenshot this link. Don't try to type it in. It will make you crazy. And then you'll have to send me an email and ask me why it's not working. But we do give CEUs for watching this monthly webinar. It's 0.05 CEUs. But that adds up over time if you tune in every month. So there's in the description link, click on the Google form links and you can go to it's a short quiz that you have to take to prove to us that you are in attendance and paying attention. That's right. So our next monthly webinar is scheduled for June 26th at 11 a.m. And the topic is to be determined. We don't have it set up yet. So if you have suggestions, things you want us to present on or presenters that you want us to bring in, we are all ears. We're open and welcome your suggestions. So thanks, you guys. It's 11:30. There's your 30 minutes. It's good that you've joined in, and we will see you next month. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.